その後のことはわかりません。私たち使用人は食堂に近づくなと厳命されましたもので。
なるほどね。それでシャノンはそのベアトリーチェという人物に以前会ったことはある？
わかりません。
Huh? Okay. So either Shannon is lying on purpose, or she means it. She means that she technically doesn't know if she's met Beatrice. She's had tea with her. She was given a gift. She was branded by her as well. For a little bit, for like a few days. Or a few hours, I don't remember how long the brand on her palm lasted for. So this could be her literally saying, I don't know, because she's unsure if anything that she's done involving quote-unquote Beatrice is real, or she's lying to George, which is more than likely what's going on. Anyway. I'll say, that was a slightly odd way to say it. It didn't quite sound as if she was saying her memory was hazy.
私たち使用人にとって、ベアトリーチェ様はお屋敷のもう一人の主です。親方様に感化されて、そうだと吹聴している、というふうにおっしゃる方もおられますが、私がここへ勤め始めた時から、ベアトリーチェ様の話はすでに囁かれておりました。
前に聞いたよ。敬わないと呪われたりして、実際に事故に遭った使用人もいるんでしょ？
ええ。ただ、信じる信じないに個人差があったのは確かです。私はそういうものには敬いを忘れないのが信条ですので、存在を疑ったことはありません。黄金の魔女という、その不確かな存在がきっといるとおぼろげに信じていました。
This song is very good, but it also sounds like something Motoi Sakuraba would have composed. If you don't remember who Sakuraba is, they did the music for Valkyrie Profile, but you more than likely know them for their work on Dark Souls 1 and the music they composed for that game. But it definitely sounds like something you'd hear in Valkyrie Profile. Like Valkyrie talking to Loki, or Valkyrie talking to someone that's about to give her like really bad news. But anyway.
それで実際にその不確かな存在の魔女が姿を現して堂々と玄関からやってきたということなのかな？
わかりません。私には何も。
シャノンは夕食を運んだ時に何か話はした？
いいえ、何も。
そっか。しかしご飯を食べる魔女というんじゃなんだかリアリティがないね。やっぱりこの島の魔女伝説を知る何者かがベアトリーチェの名を語っているだけなんだろうね。
So it's the way that line delivery was at the very beginning, it's like, how to word it? So, she answered him. He's like, hey, is there a witch here? Like, did you talk about anything? She's like, no, nothing. And then he said, soul cop. But, like, the way he said it is not like I see. It's more like, I see. It's a little bit more casual. He's like, it's like the way he enunciated it was more of a soulka you would give to someone that you know is kind of withholding information from you. If that makes sense. It's like, I see. Well, it's kind of weird that a witch that eats food is somehow not really that realistic sounding, you know? Anyway. And here, I assume, Ryukishi is trying to continue to plant seeds of doubt within our heads, or within our minds, I should say, where, again, from the viewer, from the reader's perspective, we have seen Beatrice. We know Beatrice exists in some form in the game world that we're, in the chapter that we're reading right now. We've seen her, we've heard her, we've seen her interact with other individuals as well. We've been told that other people cannot see her. We've been told that people can see her. And here we have Shannon being a little secretive on purpose, while George is trying to piece this together, right? Maybe after all, it's just someone who knows about the witch legend on this island, someone who's taking on Beatrice's name. So what if she's not real? What if it really is someone else? That's basically what Ryukishi wants us to think about. In your head, you should technically have an idea of whether or not Beatrice is real or not and roll with it, ever since chapter 1. So this is just more seeds of doubt.
シャノンちゃんはベアトリーチェを多分お屋敷の守り神みたいに思って敬ってきた気持ちがあると思うんだよ。だからそれを名乗る人物が現れたので少し動揺しちゃったんじゃないかな。
Tell me about it. She's like, ah, fuck.
そうですね。きっとそうなんじゃないかと思います。
George was slightly at a loss at what to do about Shannon's downcast appearance. Maybe not just Genji, but even the young servants had been ruthlessly questioned as to whether they knew anything about this Beatrice person. Thinking that, he tried to cheer her up somehow. Surely, just like Maria and Jessica, Shannon wasn't able to fully hide the agitation caused by the sudden visit of this person calling herself the Golden Witch. He'd been so sure that was the case, but George probably had no way of looking into Shannon's heart. Shannon was bitter and sad. The door to the Golden Land would be opened. The witch had definitely told her that. That meant the demise of everything. Even if she accepted the ring from George, they would never be married now. No. In the first place, did furniture like her even have the right to be married? Even if the witch hadn't come to signal their demise, wasn't the relationship fated to fail sooner or later? Had she turned her gaze to focus solely on those fun days spent with George, while purposefully closing her eyes to the sad reality?
"どうしたんだい?さっきから本当に元気がない。
ジョージさん、婚約って何でしょうか？
結婚の約束をするという意味だよ。でも僕はその意味において結婚と同じものだと考えてる。本当なら僕は今すぐにでも君をめとって家へ連れ帰りたい。でも僕は今修行中の身でまだまだ自らの城を築き上げる力量がない。だからこそ一人前になって初めて胸を張って君を連れ帰りたいんだ。それは遠い未来の話じゃない。 ほんの3年ほどを待ってほしいというだけの話なんだ。でも僕は、だからといって3年間、自分の気持ちを偽っていたくない。だから、婚約指輪を贈ろうと決めたんだ。それは、男として情けない理由かもしれない。妻と仕事を両立できないから待ってほしいなんて理由での婚約なんて情けないものかもしれない。でも僕は決して君を。
ありがとうございます。ジョージさんにとって婚約指輪が恋人に贈るプレゼントの一つではないということが分かりました。
当然だよ。婚約指輪はただのアクセサリーじゃない。尊い約束を指輪の形で残す恋人たちの宣誓なんだ。
だとすると、すぐにも結婚するなら不要なものということになりますよね。
その時は婚約指輪じゃない。結婚指輪として渡すよ。どちらにせよ、君に指輪を贈ることに変わりはないのさ。
この女は俺のものだから、誰も手を出すなよっていう大役札みたいなものですね。
いや、そんな意味じゃ。
Look at George's face. Oh my god. He looks a little silly. But he is blushing at the thought of, well, quote unquote, owning Shannon. George knew that he was weak by nature. When he'd been captivated by Shannon and had sworn to become an excellent man, he had also sworn to throw away that weak part of himself. So, even if he had to be blunt about it, he chose to answer a little roughly. He was sure that doing so would bolster and reassure Shannon.
Yeah. その通りかもしれない。さよ。君を僕の妻にする。他の誰にもやらない。僕だけのものにする。だから、誰も手を出すな。そういう指輪だよ。間違いない。
ありがとうございます。ジョージさん、本当に嬉しいです。
Then, George, if it was decided by fate that this engagement ring, that this promise could never be fulfilled, would you still give it to me? Shannon tried to ask that, but she swallowed her words, because George had already spoken the answer. George had said it. He had said that to him, an engagement ring was infinitely similar to a wedding ring. Therefore, accepting George's ring had a significance far more sacred than the promise to marry.
だから、僕はあえてこれを婚約指輪と呼ぶのをやめにする。今からこれは婚約じゃない。結婚指輪だ。
いいのでしょうか。神様の祝福もなく、私たちが結ばれたことを、勝手に宣言してもいいのでしょうか。
うん。神様も父さんも母さんも全て事後報告で十分さ。僕たちが二人は結ばれたと一方的に宣言する。それは誰にも覆せない。
ジョージさん。
僕は一時の感情で言ってるんじゃない。今だけの君を見て言ってるんじゃない。明日の君も明後日の君も、それこそ未来の老後の君すらも見据えて言っている。
いつもジョージさんが話していることですよね。元気な子供や孫たちに囲まれてゆっくりとした老後を過ごしたいって。
うん。その時僕の隣には年老いた君がいる。 それを僕は予言するよ。うん。必ずその日は訪れるから。
必ず訪れますか？信じてもいいですか？
うん。必ず。絶対。それを言葉でない形で証明するのがこの指輪なんだよ。
見せてください。
え、あ、ああ、これさ。
George, thinking he was being told to show her the ring, hurriedly took out the ring box. Even though he had practiced so much, he hadn't been able to do it cool. But Shannon wasn't looking at that. And here she is again. In her straight and direct gaze were vague tears and a smile. She focused her eyes on George's eyes. No, on something she could see beyond his eyes.
私にその未来を見せてください。
ああ、見せるよ。必ず。約束する。老後までじゃない。死んだ後も、僕らは魂になっても、ずっとずっと一緒にいる。
Shannon wiped away her tears and took the ring box. Inside was a diamond ring worthy of blessing the two of them. George said the line that he'd practiced over and over again inside his head.
その指輪を好きな指にはめて、それを返事にしてほしいんだ。つまり、明日の朝までに。
Shannon smiled, took the ring, and with a completely natural movement, she put it on the ring finger of her left hand. It really had looked like such a natural, ordinary movement. And for a while, George was stunned.
これが私のお返事です、ジョージさん。
シャノン。いや、さよ。
魂になってもずっと一緒です、ジョージさん。
There was no blessing from God, no pastor to witness, nothing. But the two who were married proclaimed it. Two souls were joined here today. I was genuinely expecting the glass shattering. Like right after that, when they focused on the rose garden for a bit, it lingered on a little too long, and I was like, oh, the glass shatter's coming, and it didn't come. That would have been really fucking funny. One quick thing before we do continue. That scene was very important, not necessarily for, you know, the obvious, but also the underlying nature of it. For example, we've kind of learned a little bit more about the orphanage that Shannon was raised in, just from that little interaction, even though it might not seem it. But because she said that they were gonna get married right now, like that they were, you know, proclaiming their love to each other and getting married without the blessing from God, specifically. So that tells us that she was raised in a sort of either a Catholic or a Christian orphanage growing up. She was probably forced to attend mass and all that stuff. But also the slightly blasphemous nature of this engagement, I suppose. By that I mean they got engaged, but the way they were doing it, or well, they're quote unquote married right now. But the way it was written made it seem like they both knew it wasn't like a quote unquote proper thing to do. By that I mean they were, you know, they were both acting in the moment. They're both, of course, very much in love with each other. But both of them were like, well, who cares what God thinks? Who cares what my parents think? Who cares what anyone thinks? We're married now. And that is all just heavy foreshadowing. Not just for what the witch told him specifically. But, you know, at least in this chapter, it's safe to assume that both of them are dead. And that they will die in like, I don't know, 2 hours maybe? Depending on how fast I read. What an interesting scene that was. That's for sure. Anyway, back to Canon being a little moody.
そうかな。
家具のくせに家具のくせに。
私、家具じゃないよ。もう。
嘘だ。
嘘だ。
どうして自分を騙すんだよ。
He even has the same face that like Rena had during that moment. Let me see if I still have it. Suck. What Higurashi chapter was that in? Because I still have my VODs for it, but I don't remember. Oh, here it is. It was in Oh wait, no, it wasn't in chapter 1. It was in chapter 2? This is taking too long. Fuck it. Anyway, it's like the scene where Rena is following Keiichi back after asking him where he's been. And he's like, you know, just about. And she calls him a fucking liar. Anyway.
人間になんか絶対になれないって知ってるくせに。黄金鏡へ行かなきゃ人間になれないって知ってるくせに。なのに、どうして黄金鏡へ生きる約束を自分で保護に。
そっか。指輪を受け取ったら、ベアトリーチェ様との約束がなかったことになっちゃうんだったね。ごめんね。
あとは、僕も姉さんも、ジョージ様も親方様もみんな条件は同じだ。13人が生贄にされる。5人しか黄金鏡に招かれない。その一石を自分で蹴るなんて。
おかしいね。未練があるのはカノン君の方みたいだね。
未練があるのは姉さんの方じゃないか。婚約しちゃったんだろう。果たせない運命なのを知りながら。
ずっとずっと永遠に一緒だよって約束した。だからね、その瞬間に私たちの永遠は完成したの。たとえ私たちが生贄になってしまうとしても。だからいいの。未練があるのはむしろカノン君の方。私たちは家具なんでしょ。私たちはどういう結果になろうとも解放される。なら黄金鏡に行けるか行けないかなんてどうでもいいことじゃない。なのにカノン君は黄金鏡へ行くことに固執してる。 どうしても人間になりたいんでしょ？どうして？
人間になりたいからだよ。家具はもう嫌だ。
どうして？
僕も恋がしたかったんだ。
Tears were coming from Canon's eyes, and he howled.
お嬢様のことが好きだった。そしてあの日のお嬢様の姿を見てもっと好きになった。そしてお嬢様も僕のことが好きだと分かって、でも僕は核でお嬢様の気持ちを受け止めることはできなくて。
それが勘違いだった。私たちは家具かもしれない。人間以下かもしれない。でも恋をする資格がないわけじゃなかった。
添い遂げられぬ思いならない方がマシだって思った。いつか自分も消え去る日が来て、それがきっとお嬢様を傷つけるなんて勝手に決めつけて。違うんだ。僕が怯えていただけなんだ。僕は永遠になれない恋ならしない方がマシだって怯えてただけなんだ。
セミは生涯のうち数週間にも満たないわずかな期間で恋をして消えていくんだって。数週間で終わる恋だからと恋をしないセミはいないんじゃないかな。
Even though their lives only last a few weeks, Higurashi fall in love and then vanish. It seemed that Kanon was still muttering his regrets, but by now, it was all jumbled up with his sobs.
あの魔女が憎い。僕にどうしてこんな気持ちを植え付けて。あいつさえ妙ないたずらをしなければ、僕はお嬢様のことなんか気になら。
ベアトリーチェ様はひどいね。カノン君にそうやって悔し泣きをさせるために運命をいたずらした。でも魔女の思惑は多分はずだって。
Knowing love isn't a regret that ties you to life. It is the destination we're supposed to reach in our journey through life. I was expecting Maria.
どういうわけだ、カノン。
I was expecting Maria to appear behind them and be like, hee 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 hee. So, you think the witch is detestable, do you? Or something stupid along those lines. Anyway. That was a very, very interesting scene. Normally, again, we're being shown Kanon's regrets as well as, well, his true feelings. Although, I don't know, that scene feels a bit weird. Mainly because Ryukishi isn't really, or at least from what I've known regarding Higurashi, he's not like super about being in your face with things. For example, like the way Kanon responded just now. Kanon was, you know, pouring his heart out to his sister. He's like, oh, I regret not falling in love with her. I regret falling in love with her. I regret not committing to these feelings. I regret that I was shown these emotions by the witch, and so on and so forth, right? We already kind of knew that through Ryukishi's writing, right? We knew that Kanon felt something for Jessica. So it feels a bit weird that Ryukishi is like literally spelling it out for you. He's showing you Kanon being open about himself, or sorry, being open about his feelings. That part's a little weird. But anyway.
せっかくの約束はこれで遂行だな。さてさて、これにてすべての駒の条件は同じよ。駒は18。生き残る5人は誰か。
Who will the 5 survivors be?
それとも誰かがこの儀式を打ち壊してみせるか。誰がどうやってこれはチェスプロブレムではない。対等なゲームだ。わらわだけが一方的に詰めるわけではない。そなたはわらわの爪から懸命に逃れ続け、引き分け無効試合に持ち込むことができる。まあせいぜいそなたにできるのはそれを延々と繰り返すのが関の山よ。そしておそらくそれはそなたにとってそう難しいことではあるまい。しかしそなたは永遠に続く無効試合にやがて精神をすり減らし、やがては精神を殺す。その時にこそ敗北を受け入れ、わらわに屈服することになるであろう。対等なゲームと言った理由、それはわらわにも敗北の条件を設けてあることだ。負けのないゲームほど退屈なものはないのでな。
It's a little ironic, but okay.
わらわを任す方法、それはわらわの肖像画に捧げられたあの碑文よ。あれこそは黄金鏡の扉の開き方にして同時に儀式を打ち破る鍵でもある。わらわは碑文に従い儀式を完遂する。そなたは碑文の謎を解き、儀式を打ち破り、わらわを滅ぼす。碑文に隠された謎を解き、わらわが金蔵に値し莫大なる黄金のありかを暴いてみせよ。こたびのゲームはどういう結末を見せるのやら、健闘を期待するぞ。わらわを楽しませてみせろよ、後ろ宮バトラー。
She said it for me, but I was gonna mention she's talking to Battler right now. And then she calls out his name. Oh boy. Anyway, one quick thing I want to double check. And that's here. Let's just read this over one more time before we continue. Behold the Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. You who seek the Golden Land, follow its path downstream in search of the key. As you travel down it, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. On the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. On the second twilight, those who remain shall tear apart the two who are close. On the third twilight, those who remain shall praise my noble name. On the fourth twilight, gouge the head and kill. On the fifth twilight, gouge the chest and kill. On the sixth twilight, gouge the stomach and kill. On the seventh twilight, gouge the knee and kill. On the eighth twilight, gouge the leg and kill. On the ninth twilight, the witch shall revive and none shall be left alive. On the 10th twilight, at journey's end, you shall attain the power of the Golden Land's treasures, once and for the last time. The witch shall praise the wise and bestow 4 treasures. One shall be all the gold from the Golden Land, one shall be the resurrection of all the dead souls, one shall be the resurrection of the love that was lost, and one shall be to put the witch to sleep for all time. Sleep peacefully, my beloved witch, Beatrice. So one thing that's very important, at least now that we know, this is I don't remember if I talked about this in chapter 1, but at least now we have a little bit more information regarding this. I mean, very little. That being a little more information on what the key is. So, on the first twilight, offer the 6 chosen by the key as sacrifices. And then here, there sleeps the key to the Golden Land. So, we know the key is the death roulette. But as for what that key is, well, we don't fucking know. But we have a tiny bit more information. Like, if we were to, you know, have all these little paragraphs and we try to link them together, at least certain ideas within them, the key itself is now, it's the death roulette itself, which we know, or at least which we know now. As for what it does, or who it is, if it even is a person, what if it's a thing, we don't know. But I guess we shall find out. But I just wanted to read this over once again. It helps to, I guess when solving a puzzle, it helps quite a bit to go back to the original riddle every now and again, just in case. Because of this. The epitaph that stands as an offering to my portrait, it's both the way to open the door to the Golden Land and the key to destroying my ritual. Specifically, remember, Gishki is ritual, not ceremony. But anyway. This is the important part as well. You'll try to solve the riddle of the epitaph, destroy the ritual, and to overthrow me. The thing is, how can Battler stop the ritual? I mean, the main way to do it is to, you know, solve the riddle. But how will he? Especially considering, well, he doesn't even know to start looking there. Solve the riddle hidden in the epitaph and expose the location of the vast sums of gold I gave Kinzel. So at least, if we were to take Beatrice's word as it stands, the gold is real, which doesn't matter. Unless gold is literally a metaphor here at this point for something else. But let's just assume it is gold. Okay. I guess now we'll have probably a little bit more information to go off of as the chapter continues. Because now the game is started, for the most part. Beatrice was probably just, well, she was going to do this anyway on the first Twilight, which is to start killing. But now that she's like, well, I don't have to keep my promise to this woman anymore, let's begin the actual game itself. Now, this is a little weird. That, that Kinzo has a church, or, well, would it be... Hold on. A prayer room? I was gonna say an abbey, but an abbey's is different. Yeah, well, he's got like a prayer room, I suppose. I know some mansions would have something similar to this ages ago, a place where people could congregate and worship. But this was usually in Western style manners in Europe. So and I mean, this is a Western style home in general, but it's interesting to see that Kinzo actually has one, considering that he's been practicing black magic for the past 30 or 40 years, however old Kaos is, more than likely. A little older than Kaos. So if he's been practicing black magic since then, you know, it's like, it's kind of shocking that he's got one of these. But anyway.
異論はない。私と夏日は認める。
信じられないし、信じたくないけれど、それが現実なのね。
夏日、言葉を少し選びなさい。彼女は当家の最高の賓客なのだ。わしらも認める。グーの音も出えへん。
へえ、認めるわ。一片の文句もない。まさか本当に素直にあなたに尊敬の念を覚えるわ。私もよ。すごいわ。純粋に尊敬する。だから認めざるを得ないわ。
俺も認めるぜ。未だに信じられねえ。だがどうしようね。悪魔を証明しちまった。あんたの勝ちだ。
悪魔の証明は、そなたが好む証明不能への便利な言い訳だったが、
I cackle, she cackles. Oh boy.
いじめるなよ魔女様。俺はもうあんたを認めてるぜ。降参だ。
キリエ、まだ異論があるか。わらわは全員一致しか好まぬ。お前一人がわらわの存在を認めぬならば。
As the witch laughed boldly, the siblings started getting frantic. They were afraid of displeasing the witch. Kiria lightly closed her eyes, and after keeping silent for a while, opened her mouth.
ごめんなさい。降参よ。
Only Kiria had faced the witch with stern eyes until the end. However, this had only resulted in her refusing to accept the truth for a short time. Wait a minute. Chaos, Natsu, Eva, Hideyoshi, Rudolfu, Kirie, and Rosa. Okay, for a second there, I thought, why does Beatrice have 6 people with her? And then I remembered Rosa existed. I was like, oh wait, yeah, Rosa is part of this. I thought she was gonna kill them all right now. Like in this church, or I mean, yes, this is a church. I was like, whatever else this could be. There's a literal fucking organ in the background. There's a stained glass artwork with a cross and rainbows and shit. obviously, like this would, I mean, the pews as well. Like this is, of course, a church. The truth, the being that was before her eyes couldn't be denied. Devils had already been proven.
私も認めるわ。あなたはベアトリーチェ、後宮家の顧問錬金術師、そして偉大なる魔法の使い手、魔女であることを認めざるを得ない。
And thus concludes the first Twilight. The second day, October 5th, 1986. What is that sound that always fills my ears? Is it the sound of rain, the sound of a waterfall, or could it be radio static? If not, I want it to be the sound of blood flowing through my body. I want it to be the sound of the blood circulating throughout me, telling me that I am still alive.
朝なのか。
Huh? The light entering through a crack in the curtain was faint, but it at least told them that dawn had broken. What would happen if we check the characters? So far, they're all still here. Just double checking. To see if anything is different. Nope. Mm-mm. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think this is the only slightly different one. Because I don't recall it saying this at the very beginning, unless I'm misremembering, but just in case, once more, Beatrice, the mysterious visitor and 19th person who appeared on the day of the family conference. She goes by the same name as the Golden Witch who gave the gold to Kinzel. Her reasons for visiting are unknown. She was ushered into the VIP room, which no one has been allowed to use in the past. Now, again, the way this is worded is very peculiar. She goes by the same name as the Golden Witch. So, they're not actively admitting that this is Beatrice, but it is someone who claims to be her. The other thing that's been bugging me, I think I mentioned it the first time we saw this depiction of her, but it's that thing on her leg. It's like either a tattoo or a brand or something. For all we know, what if that's the key to the Golden Land? Can you imagine? Either way. Kinzel, still in the position he'd been when he woke up, still sitting in the chair and looking up at the ceiling, felt the blood slowly travel throughout his body. Judging by the clock, it was early morning, 6 a.m. on the dot. No matter how tired he was, no matter how deeply he slept, he always woke up at exactly this time, as though he had measured it with an hourglass. He didn't think of this as something to boast about, but he told himself that as long as he could still manage this, his health couldn't be that bad.
朝を迎えたということは、どうやら最初の生贄は逃れたということらしい。ルーレットの目が幸運だったのか、我が努力の賜物なのか。区別のつかぬところが何とももどかしいが、それは言うまい。
Kinzel was struck by a faint desire to see beyond the study door. After all, he might find the traces of someone's vain struggle to break through the door. A sign that someone had tried to select him as one of the first 6 sacrifices.
人間とは安っぽい生き物だな。人事を尽くして天命を待ちながら幸運を得られた時にはそれが単なる幸運ではなく己の技量によるものだったとうぬぼれたくもなる。
That is why he wanted to check whether there was a wretched mark on the door. The very desire was human. And that was why Kinzel did not check. He often rejected desires that came to him because he was human. By doing that, he could be immersed in a feeling of sufficiency, as though he himself had become a being that surpassed humans. He recognized human desires for what they were, and guarded against them. Things that a human would want to do, he resisted. This eccentricity and rebellious nature had surely given him a rare genius, making it impossible for him to succeed in his exploits. As he revived the Yoshiromiya family, in a single generation.
さて、ベアトリーチェ。お前が取った6つの駒は何なのか。そして次なる手はどう来るのか。楽しませてもらうぞ。私の守りは完璧だ。前回のような無様はさらさぬぞ。
The servants woke early. They had to open the curtains, prepare breakfast, and complete various other tasks to welcome the guests to a new day. Golda was the most enthusiastic. During the family conference, he had been told to concentrate his effort especially on cooking, and he'd been specially exempted from several tasks that servants must normally do. Golda, who was a show-off, seemed to be feeling particularly superior because of that. He let Genji and the rest prepare the rest of the mansion, and he worked on making breakfast in the kitchen. So before we continue, let's quickly look through this one more time. So, in the first chapter, those who died on the first night, or on the first Twilight, were Kinzo. Well, actually, he wasn't confirmed yet, but it was Klaus. It was Klaus, it was Rudolfu, Kirie, Eva, Shannon, and who else? 2, 4, no, that was it. No, hold on. It was you two, and you. Who else died the first night? Was it 5? Was it? No, it was 6. Golda. Jeez, I'm fucking... I completely forget he exists. He's like right in front of me and he just disappears. But anyway, it was these 6. So Golda, Shannon, Rosa, Rudolfu, Kirie, and Klaus. So far, in this second chapter, Kinzo, who would die on the second Twilight, because he was there in the morning, right? He was there when they went to ask him if he wants breakfast. He's like, don't fucking talk to me. And then he, quote-unquote, disappeared. That's when he was chosen. And then Golda was also dead. So we shall see who lives in this chapter. Genji split the work with Shannon and Kanon, and they carried out their various tasks. Okay, so Shannon and Kanon are both alive. Shannon headed to the dining hall and knocked. Last year, the family conference had continued into the early hours of the morning. It would have been odd if this year's conference had done the same. Considering the possibility that they were still having a discussion inside, she knocked. But there was no response, so she opened the door and said good morning.
Ohayou gozaimasu. Irashaimasen ka?
The room was cold, and the conference seemed to have ended a long time before. So, I'm a little curious as to how they're going to handle this. I'm not trying to blue ball or anything. But remember, in the first chapter, the corpses weren't found until that evening, when they checked that spare room, or not spare room, but that room in the garden. The other thing is, we didn't get to see a reading of the letter, which is what kind of worries me a little bit, because we know there was 2 letters to be read, and so far, in our hints, we just have this, the portrait epitaph, and nothing else. And then we have the meeting in that church, in that little, religious room. I still don't know why the fuck Kinza would have this. Unless when he was building the manor, he's like, yeah, just make it look like a Western manor. And they're like, okay, we'll include, one of these rooms that are basically churches. We'll put an organ in there. He's like, yeah, I don't give a fuck. So, that's what I'm thinking of. It's a bit, it's a bit concerning, but we'll see what happens. There was a tea set on the table from which they'd probably been drinking, arranged in a way that would make it easy to clean up. Cleaning up the tea was a servant's job. If the family members were extra generous and cleaned it up themselves, the servants would lose face. So, it was a truly pleasant act of kindness for the family to do only this much. As she approached the table to clean it, she noticed something like a memo that had been left near the utensils and cups. Since it was right next to the tea set, Shannon picked it up, naturally thinking it was a memo for the servant doing the cleaning. Written there was not a request, nor was it thanks for preparing the tea. There was just a single word. Shannon looked at it blankly and read it out loud.
礼拝堂。
And yeah, I guess it could be a chapel. Why did I blank on that word? I was like, room of worship, small church. I mean, how big is a chapel overall? It is literally a place of worship that is smaller than and subordinate to a church. How did I forget this fucking word? But yeah, okay, fine, whatever. He's got a chapel in his fucking manor. A small sound kept repeating over and over. Normally, that sound would have been too trivial to be worth caring about. If only I could stop hearing it soon, I could go back to sleep right away, she thought vaguely. But no matter how much time passed, the sound did not end. It repeated over and over. Shut up. Who is it? Banging on the door this whole time. As soon as she realized that, she woke up. Someone was knocking. Then, she noticed that it wasn't a knock, but a voice as well.
Rosa-sama. Rosa-sama. Ohayou gozaimasu.
待って。今行きます。
It had been Genji's voice. Looking at the clock, it wasn't even 7 a.m. yet. It was clearly too early to wake the guests. Did something happen that was bad enough to cause this? She felt her sleepiness increasingly fade thanks to this premonition of misfortune. Though Genji was a servant, Rosa had known him since her childhood days, so even though she was slightly defenseless in her pajamas, she opened the door a crack and answered.
おはようございます。早朝から申し訳ございません。
何かあったの？
はい。
Did something happen? Yes. Breakfast is served.
実は礼拝堂に。
Genji whispered something into Rosa's ear. For a second, it seemed Rosa couldn't understand what she'd been told. After having it repeated several times, she realized that apparently something strange had happened. Rosa closed the door for a second, changed her clothes quickly, and followed Genji towards the mansion. The chapel requires some explanation. Thank you. It wasn't in the mansion, but in a grove behind it, a short walk's distance away. It had been built at the same time as the mansion, so though its walls had been repaired many times, making it look new from the outside, it was a very old building. Rosa dashed through the rain along with Genji. Just like the previous night, the rain was falling in earnest. Cool. Eventually, the chapel came into sight from beyond a thin grove. This isn't the chapel, is it? This is literally probably the other, but this is probably like the back of the manor. But just looking at it from the outside, it seemed a place of dazzling beauty, where a pair of young lovers might want to get married. That's foreshadowing. However, Kinzo apparently viewed it as a very sacred place, so Rosa and her siblings have been given strict instructions not to approach it unnecessarily. Huh? Even though they were all grown up now, approaching the chapel for any reason would still make them feel guilty. What do you mean? Kinzo viewed this place as viewed it as a sacred place. He's been performing blasphemous. Oh, it just hit me. He's been performing rituals. Why would he have a church? Why else? Why else would he have a church? It may not necessarily be what's on the outside that matters at this point. The outside being the church, or the chapel, I should say. What matters might be what's underneath it, or within it. It's like immediately like, why would a supervillain have a giant cave? Oh. It's because that's where their secret lab is. And also afraid as if their father might get angry and hit them in the face. The servant silhouettes could be seen in front of the chapel's entrance. Goda, Shannon, and Kanon. Which meant that all of the servants on the morning shift had gathered. A short while ago, Genji had spoken to Rosa, telling her what the situation was. However, without laying eyes on it directly, she definitely hadn't been able to understand. It was probably the same for all the servants gathered here as well. Without seeing it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have been able to understand what was going on. Okay. So let's take some predictions on who is gone. So far, Goda is alive, Kanon is alive, Shannon is alive, Genji is alive. Beatrice exists, maybe. Kinzo is alive. And Rosa is alive. And of course, Battler is alive. Those who are presumably dead are Kumasawa, Maria, Kirie, Rudolfu, Eva, Hideyoshi, Natsuhi, Klaus, and Jessica. You're probably wondering why I skipped George. Well, it kind of implied that he's alive because she's alive. Now, there could be a situation in which Beatrice did kill George. Just to be like, I could have killed you both on the second night, together. But I went in and killed them now. So, it could be one of those situations, or it could be that George is still alive. Now, considering that Kumasawa wasn't mentioned, I'm gonna assume she died. I'm gonna assume Kiria died as well, as she was actively defying Beatrice. Out of all of the people that were present at the chapel, she was the only one who didn't outright say she believed in Beatrice. So that's 2 so far. I'm gonna say Maria is probably dead. There's a chance she died. Because Maria would have slept in the same room as her mother. And if Genji would have come to, wake up her mother, Maria would have also thrown a bitch fit. She would have been like, it's too early, I don't want to get up, or whatever. More than likely, I'm assuming. So far, 3 victims. We don't need this couple, so more than likely Ava and Hideyoshi are also gone. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. With you. Now, assuming Maria is alive, because maybe she just wasn't sleeping in the same room as Ava. Maybe Ava was sleeping, or sorry, Rosa was sleeping in the same, within the manor, and Maria was sleeping with the cousins. There's a chance that these two are now gone. Because Kinzo is alive. So it's more than likely 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. Rudolph is up in the air, but I'm pretty sure these two are for sure dead. Hideyoshi and Ava are more than likely dead, because they don't need a couple for the next night, now that Shannon and George are alive. Although technically, remember what she said, it could be any lovers. It could be Jessica and Kanon. It can be Rudolfo and Kirie. So we'll see. But those are my predictions for now. On the door at the entrance to the chapel was something very large, drawn with a creepy, stringy paint that made one think of blood. Something like a creepy magic circle. We've already discussed what this was. I'm going to remind myself, though, because I forget which specific circle of Solomon it was, but it was the... Check my notes. The 7th magic circle. Oh. So, here it is. The 7th magic circle of the sun, which once again represents freedom. Jeez. The fuck are they doing upstairs? Anyway. The 7th magic circle of the sun, which represents freedom, breaking chains, and releasing someone from spiritual or physical bondage. It is strongest when made and used on a Sunday during the sun's hours, as in when it's daylight out. However, in Chapter 1, the murder happened on a Saturday night / Sunday morning when the sun was not out. For all we know, this happened just now. This is the other thing to remember that I didn't really think about too hard on during the first chapter. But if you recall, when the lovers were killed in Chapter 1, the bodies were discovered. Well, those who died were reached out to by Genji and Kanon, but they couldn't get in because the door was shut by a latch, by the chain, right, holding the door closed. They left to get bolt cutters, and then by the time they came back, which took, 5 minutes? Let's say 5, 10 minutes, 20 minutes at most, for whatever reason. Another sigil was on the door. So that happened quite quickly. Meaning that there's a good chance that this murder just happened. I don't remember what Nanjo's diagnosis was off the top of my head when they found the bodies the first time. Where he's like, well, I'm not really a mortician or whatever the fuck he said. But these bodies have been dead are for sure dead. But unless he said that they've been dead for a while, like hours, then there's a good chance that these people just recently died. Like probably within, if it's not 7 o'clock yet, a little before 6, probably. Anyway.
何よこれいつ書かれたの
The servants looked at each other. Golda was the first to open his mouth.
申し訳ございません。普段はここへは立ち入りませんもので、いつ書かれたのかは分かりません。
じゃあ最初に見つけたのは誰？はい、私です。
食堂へお茶の道具の片付けに行きましたら、礼拝堂と書かれたメモがあったもので。
Shannon held out the memo with a shaking hand.
誰の字？兄さんや姉さんの字ではないわね。それであなたはここへ来てこれを見つけたのね。
はい。
ローザ様、これを。
何？ハッピーハロウィン for
Canon pointed at a single line of English written below the creepy magic circle. Until it had been pointed out to her, she thought that it was just another part of the magic circle. There, the following words were written in English. Happy Halloween for Maria. Huh? Huh? What do you mean, Happy Halloween for Maria? Happy Halloween for Maria. This creepy magic circle was for Maria. Happy Halloween. Yesterday, only one person had said Happy Halloween to Maria. The key phrase matched. It was the Golden Witch Beatrice. I shit you not, for a second when I opened this, I could have sworn that Maria's eyes glowed red, like in her little portrait. That's so dumb. But like, actually wait, I could probably recreate it. Here, one sec. This is so fucking stupid. Give me 1 second. I saw this for a brief moment. Okay, hold on. Like so. Yeah, you get the point. So it's like her eyes like glowed red for a brief second. That's so fucking stupid. Anyway, what I wanted to check was this again. The key to the Golden Land in the key phrase. Probably unrelated. But it was the Golden Witch Beatrice.
Maria は？あの子、いとこたちと一緒に寝てるはずよね。確認した？
申し訳ございません。マリア様のお名前が書かれていたことには今気づき、まだ確認しておりません。至急。
何やってんのよ。私はマリオの様子を見てきます。それからクラウス兄さんたちにも知らせて、以後の対応の指示を受けて。
After saying that much, Rosa finally noticed that something was odd. Her own rank in this family conference was the lowest of the 4 siblings. Why had she been the only one called during an abnormal situation like this, when the other siblings hadn't been? Even if Maria's name had popped up,
はい、旦那様にご連絡申し上げようとしたのですが、お姿が見当たらず。
奥様もお部屋におられません。シーツの様子からすると、昨夜はベッドに戻られていないのかもしれません。
Rosa felt something creepy crawling slowly up her back.
礼拝堂の中確認し。
いえ、まだです。確認しようとはしたのですが。
実は礼拝堂の鍵は特別でマスターキーに対応しておりません。1本だけある鍵でしか開けられないのですが、その鍵がキーボックスから紛失しているのです。
She didn't want to get closer to the door with a creepy magic circle if she could. Rosa readied herself and approached, then tried pushing and pulling the knob. All she felt was the resistance of the sturdy lock.
入れる窓などがないか探してはみたのですが、もし中を確認するのでしたら窓を破らなければならないかと思います。いかがいたしましょう。
そんな許可私に出せるわけがないわ。お父様の大切な礼拝堂なのよ。
No joke, that is literally what I was just thinking of right now. I'm like, if the door is locked, the only way to get in is by breaking the window or something. That's probably the only thing they can do right now. At that time, the events of the previous day swirled around in the back of Rosa's mind. That's right. When I met that witch in the rose garden, didn't she hand Maria an envelope? Or an envelope? Yeah, there's no mistake. She did hand it over. When Maria tried to open it, the witch told her not to do it yet. And then she surely said, "The time to open that will come soon." Rosa was sure. There could be no mistake. The envelope Maria had received was... After dashing back to the guest house, Rosa approached the cousin's room while hiding her footsteps, softly opened the door, and peered inside. From the inside, she could hear the healthy snores of typical young people. There were 4 children, and Maria was there, sleeping soundly. Alright. After breathing a sigh of relief, she entered the room with quiet footsteps. So, let's see if this says anything else for someone like, say, Rosa. No. It doesn't say something like she was not chosen by the key or whatever. So, if the 4 cousins are alive, and you 4 are alive, along with Kinzo, that means that there's a good chance that all 6 of the brothers, or well, sorry, that all 6 of them were chosen. So the 3 siblings and their spouses. There's a good chance these 6 were chosen, along with either, well, with the possibility of Kumasawa as well. If for some reason one of them didn't get chosen, let's say Kaos for whatever reason wasn't chosen, then it was definitely Kumasawa who's also dead. She could also just be lazy and just not appear, and that's why we haven't heard or seen her at all. But anyway. She was after Maria's handbag, which was resting on the sofa. Maria always liked carrying her treasures around with her. She was probably emulating how her mother always carried her makeup with her. Of course, she was just imitating her mother, so everything on the inside was junk. In Maria's case, it was full of small, creepy, occult items. Notebooks describing things of that nature, and so on. Rosa had never been happy to see her daughter walking around with things like that, which weren't girlish at all. However, trying to force Maria to stop had resulted in a big fight, so she decided to let it be. A Western envelope with the crest of the golden eagle. When she took it out of the bag, she realized there was a heavy, vaguely cylindrical object inside. She could tell by its feel and its weight. There was no doubt. This was a key. After turning around and checking that Maria was still sound asleep, Rosa tore open the envelope and the contents spilled out into her palm. It was a key with an old and intricate design. Rosa gripped the key and dashed out. This looks like a screen you would have in like a Resident Evil title or something, where it's like imagine like you're walking through the mansion, you go outside, the door creaks open, like opens up and then closes behind you. Then you take like 5 steps forward into the guest house, the door opens again, and then it closes, right? And then you slowly walk through the hallway of the guest house. You turn to the second door on your left. You open it slowly, and you walk towards the like purse that's sitting in the couch in the back. And you open it. And then you hear that sound, or like in Silent Hill when you pick up an item, the dun-dun little sound effect. And it's like, you got the key to the chapel. Or actually, no, it's like you picked up a note. There was an envelope lying within the purse on the couch. Well, you read it, and then you read it, and you hear the like sound of paper crumpling. And then you read like some note about the chapel, or about some note that some person left behind in the guest house. And then it says, out of the envelope fell a key. And then it's like, dun dun, and then you get it. And then it shows you this screen. But what I did want to say is, what I was expecting to happen is that the moment she grabbed the envelope, it would have cut to Maria behind her, being like, what are you doing going through my purse, mother? And then and then Rosa freaking the fuck out or screaming or something. But anyway, Rosa gripped that key and dashed out. Battler seemed to have noticed that sound, but after grumbling and turning over in the sleep, he started snoring again. Maria, however, had one eye open the entire time.
源氏さん、この鍵、ひょっとして礼拝堂の鍵ということは。
これをどこで？はい。これが礼拝堂の鍵です。
So her doing this is obviously incredibly suspicious. Right? Why would she have the key? Where did she get it? We know what she just did. We know that she went back to the guest house. We know that she went into Maria's room. We know that she went into Maria's purse and grabbed it out of an envelope. But they don't know that. Do you think they're going to believe for a second that that Rosa just magically found the key in an envelope that her daughter had? How fucking absurd, how stupid do you take these characters for? Right? Anyway. Rosa approached the creepy magic circle once again and put the key in the keyhole. There was a strong resistance. After it resisted for a short while, it stopped resisting with a clunk. Then, squeaking with a noise that hurt one's ears, it slowly began to open. Her voice reverberated through the massive room. Of course, there was no answer. The chapel had a high ceiling, and the air was cold. And even on this rainy, unsettling day, it felt sacred for some reason. The servants timidly followed after Rosa. And here's a little picture of the classic chapel.
Rosa-sama, あれを。
Kanun noticed it immediately and pointed. Over there was the altar. In the place that would normally have a pastor preaching of God's love, there was a table that shouldn't have been there. At first, it looked like a dining table. There actually were gorgeous plates and utensils placed there, making it look like a child's birthday party or something. Upon closer inspection, the surrounding area had been decorated with pumpkins and black and orange ribbons. They were probably Halloween decorations. And there were people seated at the table. 3 people on each side facing each other, seated in chairs. They could be recognized at a glance. Klaus and his wife, Ava and her husband, and Rudolph and his wife. But if you wanted to be sure, you'd still have to go even closer and check. Because they seemed almost like dolls. Rosa and the rest had opened the door, entered all at once with the sound of many footsteps, and called out asking if anyone was there. And yet, there had been no reaction. Even if Rosa and the rest assumed they were being ignored, you'd still expect there to be some kind of reaction. And there hadn't even been that. So at first it felt like someone had set down some dolls that greatly resembled those people. By now, it wasn't just Rosa, Shannon and Kanun and even Golda. They were all fighting frantically with a creepy emotion that grasped their hearts.
兄さん、Aさん。
As she walked towards the altar, she called out again, but there was still no reaction. And also, this is a different shot from a different angle. Here we can see the organ, actually, a little bit more clearly. Yes, by now, Rosa was sure of it. She was sure that these weren't dolls, but people themselves.
これは
they grew close enough to see clearly what lay on the table. It still looked like an adorable banquet, reminiscent of a child's birthday party. Plates piled up with sweets, cute pitchers with drinks, all kinds of pumpkin-shaped ornaments. They were all decorated in a Halloween style. And while this probably wasn't the time to be thinking it, Maria would surely have been delighted to see all of this. That was the state of the table they sat in front of, apparently asleep. It was an eerie scene, as though a small, fun-looking Halloween party had been stopped in time.
兄さんたち寝てるの？
When she approached even closer to them, she realized that there were snacks scattered all over the floor. Candies, cookies, soda, and chocolates, all with heavy fantasy-themed packaging. They were all scattered across a carpet covered with blackberry and cranberry jam. Rosa and the rest finally realized what the situation was. It was a Halloween party, a banquet for those not of this world. Klaus, Natsuhi, Eva, Hideyoshi, Rudolfu, and Kirie were seated in chairs apparently asleep, but all dead. How could you tell that they were dead and not simply sleeping? That was because they'd been vertically sliced open. From their chest to their stomachs. The six of them had sat down at a Halloween party before having their stomachs split open, killing them. Then the jam covering the floor must be what overflowed from their stomachs once they'd stuffed themselves completely. Right? No. The contents of their stomachs had been scattered all over the floor, and that wasn't all. Out of their stomachs, it was almost as though they poured out, as though the snacks had been overflowing from there. Candies and cookies and chocolates had poured out, stained with blood, and had scattered across the floor. What could have happened to cause this? It's almost as though their stomachs were stuffed full to bursting with sweets, and it all poured out when their stomachs split open. Rosa remembered a certain shocking meal, a turkey that had been served at her own birthday. When it had been cut open with a knife, out flowed one of her favorite foods. But since she hadn't been told what was inside, the deep red ketchup omelet rice poured out like bloody maggots. Pulsing, dripping, slimy, pulpy, squelching. The trauma of her youth was revived. Rosa felt a monster raging inside her stomach as the acid started to rise. Unable to hold back, she threw it all up on the floor. Her empty stomach had nothing but stomach acid. The scene in front of her was no fun Halloween party now. The three couples were enshrined right there, their stomachs vertically wrenched open. Wrenched open with a Gyui Guba. Eh? Gyui Guba. Is this a thing? I'm a little nervous to check this link. I found like one person asking about this on Reddit, and I am not going to look at it in case it says something like, oh yeah, this is from chapter 2 in Umineko. When this happens and this happens, it means this, and it's supposed to be a reference to this, this, and this. So I'm not gonna check that, but I will ask Billy about it later. So let me just real quick. Either way. So many snacks have been stuffed in there. Pulpy, squishy. Blood and guts and sweets were overflowing onto the floor, bloodstained, sticky, sloppy, pulpy, sweet snacks that made your fingers stick together. Gummy, but stained with entrails. Sloppy, pulpy. What was that I stepped on just now? That didn't feel like a candy or a cookie or a soda or chocolate. I'm scared. What did I step on? I can't even look at the bottom of my foot. What a gruesome Halloween party. From far away, it looked truly beautiful, fantastical, and fun. But from up close, it was horrible, disgusting, and yet somehow still beautiful. Rosa's wild thoughts tried as best as they could to escape her throat with a loud voice that was neither a scream nor a roar. If a word so tied to reality hadn't come out of Golda's mouth, Rosa and the rest would probably have found themselves unable to escape that nightmarish party, even now. But it wasn't because they thought the police might be able to do something. If they didn't keep yelling about the police, it felt as though another seat might be set up at this demon's party and given to them. Their own chests felt like they were expanding unpleasantly from the inside, rumbling, churning, and it was surely because candy was about to overflow from their stomachs. Rosa, once again tortured by a desire to vomit, threw her stomach acid up on the floor. And then she searched to see if there was any candy in it. Oh, that's fucking gross. Rosa coughed violently again, forcefully spitting out the stomach acid that had been burning in her throat. She realized that by now her whole body had been covered in a filthy sweat.
Genji-sanとシャナンちゃん、お父様に連絡して指示を仰いでちょうだい。ゴーダさんはカノン君と一緒に行って警察に電話を。あと、南條先生に来てもらう。
Why even bring Dr. Nanjo here? It's a bit too late for medical care. The servants accepted their orders and dashed outside. After watching them leave, Rosa once again stared at her siblings, with whom she'd spent good and bad times, and their partners. Though there could be nothing more tragic than this scene, for some reason, she was tempted to describe these fantastical deaths as beautiful. So, obviously, the setup for this quote-unquote game or move is that we have 6 deaths. And of those 6 deaths, they occurred in a building which almost no one knew of, the chapel, which was basically locked to the public. It is impossible to get in unless you had the key. The key which was produced by Beatrice, put inside an envelope, and given to Maria before any of this happened the day prior. Meaning that if we're to believe what happened, it means that Beatrice got the key, gave it to Maria. The door to the chapel was locked, of course. And then after everyone went to bed, she probably gathered all 6 siblings, except for Rosa, who was already gone. She quote-unquote threw a party with them in the chapel. And as they were eating and stuffing their faces, their stomachs all burst open one by one, and their guts and contents came exploding out of them. Obviously, this is something that a human could not do. Right? And that's what you're supposed to be thinking about. Because what happened to these 6 individuals? How did they die specifically? Did their stomachs burst open because of magic? Did someone use a knife or an ice pick or something, stab them in the stomachs one by one and sliced upwards, making it so that their guts all came rushing out of their bellies, basically, along with all the contents inside of their stomachs? I guess we'll find out next time as we continue with more Umineko. Before we do leave, let's see if this is here. It is. So all 6 of the siblings are gone. It looks like my predictions were correct. Do remember, I haven't played this game, but just using some common sense. Safe to assume that they were going to be the victims. Let's start with Rudolfu. Ooh. It could be like that guy from what was the name of that show? Nightmare, was it? Where it's like, ooh, nasty. Ooh, nasty. Anyway, Ushiromiya's house. His corpse was found in the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems his stomach was cut open and his intestines pulled out after his death. On top of that, sweets and candies were packed into his stomach. Welcome, Maria. Happy Halloween. Ushiromiya Natsuhi. Her corpse was found in the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems her stomach was cut open and her intestines pulled out after her death. On top of that, sweets and candies were packed into her stomach. Didn't I tell you? Stomachs are packed full of candy. Ushiromiya Eva. Her corpse was found in the chapel. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems her stomach was cut open and her intestines pulled out after death. On top of that, sweets and candies were packed into her stomach. Everyone has a stomach filled with sweet dreams. Ushiromiya Hideyoshi. His corpse was found in the chapel. Direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems his stomach was cut open and his intestines pulled out after his death. On top of that, sweets and candies were packed into his stomach. Why would there be anything filthy inside someone's stomach? Ushiromiya Rudolfu. Same thing as before. On top of that, sweets and candies were packed into his stomach. This is why we want to be as sweet and innocent as candy. Ushiromiya Kiryu. Same thing as before. Sweets and candies were packed into her stomach. And so I give you the land of dreams. Happy Halloween. Does she say anything else? Nope. And what about Kinzo once again? No. And what about Eva? No. Nothing new here for them. So why don't we save real quick? And let's get ready to swap on over to the ending screen.